Well, hello there. It is time for Star Wars Episode 6 Return of the Jedi, 13M2 Vader's Death, music by John Williams, orchestrated by Thomas Newman, of all people. Should have been a very early orchestration job for him. I think he did 2 or 3 actually in this film, interestingly. So I'm going to be looking at my second screen. I'm on my new system at the moment, so I've got OBS running on the main screen and then this one on my secondary one. So apologies for not always sort of looking directly into the camera up there, just because I'm going to be looking over here. So yeah, this is a really interesting one. We've still got quite a big orchestra in terms of 3 flutes, 2 oboes, cor anglais, 3 clarinets, 2 bassoons, contra, 6 horns, 3 trumpets, 3 trombones, including a bass trombone as number 3, tuba, harp, celeste, piano. I don't think there's any piano in this particular one. Timpani, obviously, a variety of different sorts of percussion, not too many, and strings. So that's what we've got. We start off actually with this quite interesting sort of what Frank Lehman calls a pseudo-Uranus motif, which is a reference to the Holst planets, basically. So I actually put this through a pitch class set thing just because I was thinking, what is that? It's a sort of ninth, augmented 9th chord, but without the 7th. It doesn't have any other additional meaning with any sort of musical cipher or that sort of thing. I don't think that's the sort of thing that particularly interests John Williams, actually. I think he just thinks it's a bit sort of, well, elementary, maybe. I'm not sure. I don't know why, but it's just not something that he particularly does. Other composers do, like Bach, for example, you know, this sort of thing. Schumann, Shostakovich, Alban Berg was famous for it. All sorts of other composers. But this, I don't think we need to derive any other meaning from it other than there is an allusion to Holst at this particular bit. So, yes, so I think it's set 424 or something like that. I can't remember. But we'll do a little bit of set work just because it's quite interesting in terms of sort of showing where things come from, if they're indecipherable in terms of, you know, how many extensions you've got, that sort of thing. Whether it's a chordal chord, which is less easy to sort of investigate. But then we've also got some unusual chords here, a half dim chord with a sharp 7 and a sharp 9 as well. Which is interesting. So the main thing of this is of course, you know, revealing himself to be Anakin Skywalker again. Spoiler alert. So that's what we have. We start off really with the trombones, and they give this sort of quite harsh, decisive boom, 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 like that. And it goes actually quite quickly, and then it sort of slows down. We've also got this sort of angular timpani line as well. Like that. And I think I put that as a query just because it was different in the orchestrated score as it was in the recording, which is always a difficulty. And of course, there are always numerous things in this one because it's a bit less dense than some of the other work I've been doing. It's a bit easier to sort of kind of tell. I know there's a wrong note in the live to picture version where that's written as an E natural for some bizarre reason, even though there's an E flat in everywhere else. In that particular bit, yes, there's an E natural in the bass note, but actually it's a sort of alt chord, really. Here we go. We start off with, you know, 4 bars of this sort of angular bass line. This doesn't necessarily seem to relate in terms of the harmony to that particularly. It's just another bit. So here we've got his favourite voicing for this set called 3-3. And by the way, just a quick reminder that these sort of sets are pitch class sets. They're just collections of notes that don't necessarily fall into a standard tonal scheme, although some do. Obviously, they all do. But it's a way of sort of really dissecting atonal elements. Because that, for example, could have lots of different meanings and context given what other chords are around it. But as standalone things as well, sometimes it's just best to describe it as, well, it's a 3-3. That's what it is. It starts off with 0, Then you count up 8 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9, 10, 11, and we get that voicing. It's a sort of major-minor dyad, like that. 0, 3, 4 basically is the sort of fourth equivalent in terms of the interval, in terms of the actual pitches itself. 0 being C, 1 always being C sharp, D being 2, 3 is E flat, 4 is E natural, etc. This is using a relative version of that in terms of showing what the voicing is. When they're put together with the other notes, which is completely unrelated, we've got an additional D, and that gives us another set called 4Z15. Let's ignore what the Z means for the time being. Basically, they have equivalents of other things which correlate to this sort of intervallic content. This one is quite interesting because it's an all-interval tetrachord. That means there's one of every interval from a minor second through to an augmented fourth in them. And of course, anything greater than that is just an inversion of one of those 6 intervals. So that's that. So I suppose there is that in there, but I don't think it's got any special significant meaning other than that John Williams liked the chord and how it sounded. I don't think there's anything else into it. There's a loose reference in terms of those sevenths there, and sort of sevenths there as well, but actually it's very atonal. You can tell because the lower the number is on the right hand side, the more semitones it generally tends to have. So for example, 6Z3 is virtually chromatic because we have a fully chromatic set here if we sort of have a look at what there is. So we've got C sharp, we've got D. Is there an E flat? No. Actually there is. No, that's a G flat. But we've got all sorts of, other notes in there which correlate like that as well. So we've still got this like that. I think it's E flat I meant to say, not E natural. Let's go and change that, make sure I've got that right. Where's my... Oh yeah, that's the problem, is my keypad's disappeared. I'll put it over there. I didn't even know you could make it bigger and smaller. It took me ages to work that out. Anyway, E flat. No, there we go. Eventually got there. So yes, almost a fully chromatic set at that point. There's 6 notes. Again, it's just sort of a little bit of imitation, a little bit of interval variance, I suppose. And then we've got this sort of G pedal or inner pedal along with some other 3/3 chords here, which is very much an 0-3-4. Where we got a C minor major chord, that sort of idea, as well. With this sort of dominant pedal, 2 beats, and then we're into another bit of that G, and then we're into this atonal angular melody, like that, which sort of starts and ends on the E flat, as well. I don't think it's any huge special significance with it in terms of its relationship with anything else. We could actually end up just deciphering what those notes are and seeing whether any of these are subsets of it. I don't think they will be, but we can always have a go and do this. And this is sort of, sometimes the fun aspect of doing this sort of thing. Let me try and minimize that a little bit. Well, no, that's not working. I was trying to sort of show both on the same thing, and it's a bit difficult for me to sort of try and do it. But anyway, we'll give it a go. So we've got E flat, and we've got C, C sharp, B. Already had that, and we've already had that. So what does that give us? 6Z40. Well, I mean, that doesn't really tell us very much. We could, though, have a look at what trichords are part of it. So 3/3 is a subset of it. So we have had some of those elements in there before. Is 4Z15? I don't know. Let's go to tetrachords. No. So again, it doesn't really tell us very much. Is 417? No. And is 6Z3? Not really, because we're already on a 6 note thing anyway. So it doesn't really tell us very much at all. But the good thing is that we're checking to see whether there was anything significant, and there isn't. So that's fine. That's equally as valuable knowing that as it was to sort of find some sort of hidden meaning with all of this stuff. So you have this very, very high cello solo. So I said it's atonal, but it's not chromatically atonal. It just doesn't have a tonal center at that point, apart from that G. And then we have those interesting sort of 0134s. 0134 being this set here. I think it's 4-3. 0134. Here we go. Which is a sort of DSCH motive. Often it's associated with the octatonic scale, although it does appear actually in other scales as well. So there is an instance of that, with a little bit of counterpoint as well. Notice the augmented fourth, diminished fifth interval that appears so often in Williams, and particularly in this particular film as well. Then we've got this sort of really unusual chord as at this point, like that, but with an E in the bass, like that. Another great sort of jazz chord, basically. It's set 615. Again, that tells us very little, and it's somehow a subset of the limited mode of transposition, mode 3, which has got a pitch class set of 9/12, a non-atonic scale, which he has used actually in his Violin Concerto No. 1, and also in some Harry Potter as well. So it is a known thing that he has referred to at all. And basically it's sort of that, like that. It's sort of 3 semitones, then a gap, and then 3 semitones, then a gap, 3 semitones. It's another of these sort of synthetic scales. Anyway, all jazz really, as somebody's pointed out. Then we're into an interesting thing, because we've now got the violins doing this Imperial March Darth Vader all the way through, actually, with this interesting G natural minor descending scale. Which is just going up a tone, but using exactly the same scale. Which is in the sort of Celeste and harp as well. Make sure that you realise that Celeste is sounding actually an octave higher than it is written here. I generally don't tend to do that, because otherwise it'd be so many ledger lines and lots of 8 VAs and things like that. Then we've got, don't forget this is bass clef here. So here we've got horns and tuba, E flat minor, which is actually, you know, the standard sort of way of harmonising it. We're then into another bit as he takes his mask off. So we've got an interesting sort of quartal Dorian chord here. I've called it that. I mean, it could be any sort of mode. It depends what you think is the keynote. So I put G, but I mean, that's only because there was a G before. Could be anything, really. Any mode that has a B flat in it. But then we've also got this chromatic inflection as well. Then we've got this extraordinary sort of bit of harmony here, because essentially we've got that B flat minor, B flat minor, like that. So, but we've also got a major seventh as well. So in fact, that's B flat minor major 7. It's not, with a flat 13 and a sharp 9 and an add 4. So again, a sort of very advanced standalone sort of Oh, no, sorry. It is... yeah. It's because of our... That's still an E flat, and we've still got an A at that point, so that's why there's a major 7th as well. So, yeah, interesting. Sort of E flat minor 9. And it looks as though it's going to resolve at that point, and it doesn't quite. You know, where it says, tell your sister. Like that. So all these amazing sort of chords, and then we've got this sort of F sharp minor with a major 7 chord as well. With a sort of almost F major sort of Imperial March at that point as well. So all of these amazing sort of chords which sort of come out of just the invention of John Williams's brain at this point, just in terms of where, how they're harmonizing this in a sort of really unusual way. Really rich harmony, and then we're into E flat minor, like that. Those little sort of splashes, E flat minor with a sharp 4, then add a flat 6 and a natural 4, and then it goes into this sort of C half dim with an add 9, and then B flat, as it's clearly going, and then a little badum. Sort of a, I'm feeling it, actually that's a sort of F sharp type chord really, even though there isn't one there. So it's a sort of you know, precursor, a sort of 2, then a 5 and a 1, except it's not quite a 5. But we've got this sort of tritone thing, the sort of altered dominant E chord really, because of E in the bass. Amazing. We've got sort of dim, B dim, add 4, like that, and then it goes to B flat. Amazing sort of polychord. So D flat at the top. Notice how it so often starts with the 5th of the from the root as a texture, as a voicing. And then into B flat. What an amazing way to end Darth Vader. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah. Boom. Like that. Amazing. I wonder what set that is. I mean, it's probably sort of utterly pointless to see, but I'm kind of interested now just to sort of see whether there was anything in that, but I don't think there is. So we got an E, F, B natural and a D natural, and then we got D flat, F and A flat. 627. What does that tell us? Absolutely nothing. Nothing at all. So yeah, I'm quite happy that we've kind of settled on whatever that is. That was a diminished 11th chord, but this isn't. So just a sort of tritone altered dominant really, into B flat. So it starts off in sort of this C area, doesn't have any hint of that B flat until much later on. We're into that sort of G minor sort of bit, and then various iterations of the theme as well. So in terms of the keys, sort of G, so it's sort of G minor, D minor, sort of A minor type sort of bit. But all of the chords aren't that. They're all sort of something a bit different. What sometimes we call wrong note bass or whatever. In this case, it's not quite like that, actually. It's just harmonised slightly differently. With interesting chords, you know, this D minor bit. The sort of almost Lydian, but it's not quite like that. Because of all these sort of chromatic inflections as well. So again, you know, it's much more complex than just, you know, knowing about what an octatonic scale is or a hexatonic scale or anything like that. There are sort of other things at play. And particularly where, you know, you do this, but harmonising it like this. And then when it goes into this, sort of almost romantic. So it doesn't resolve. Amazing. It just keeps going on. These amazing sort of free-flowing chords, some of which have sort of tonic dominant relationships to each other, sort of, or tertiary ones. Like that, basically, is how it goes. And then ends on B flat. So a fantastic piece, and just the chimes, just those little soft stick chimes just at the very, very end, not really giving the game away at all, as he sort of breathes his last. What an amazing sort of beautiful cue. I think one of the really good ones, actually, in this particular film. Very, very different from now having virtually seen, you know, pretty much most of the film and analysed it, comparing that with Empire Strikes Back and A New Hope. It's so different in very, very many ways, even though some of the material is actually you know, the same. So I found that extremely interesting. So that's all for now, folks. I shall see you next time. I'm just trying to think of the next thing. I think it's Through the Flames, because I've done that, and I'm looking forward to bringing that to you as well. So, in fact, some of that music is actually from The Empire Strikes Back, but never from the recorded bits in the film. It was recorded, but will never use in the film, and then it's repurposed for Return. Then it goes into the original cue. But I'm going to do the original cue, and then also do the film version of the cue, because I like to see what was originally done, because I think that's important. So, coming towards the end. What a journey. Anyway, I shall stop babbling, and I will see you soon. Bye for now.